Hey everyone, so today we'll be looking at the Media station by Santiago Calatrava, and we'll be trying to understand how we can actually create this entire structure with the help of just simple projections inside Rhinoceros. So to begin, let's try understanding the entire geometry first. For that, let's try drawing it out. A few more images as you can see over here. The Media train station is a large train terminal wherein the high speed trains actually arrive at the station. And to make sure that the entire structure is also proofed with sound, the walls as well as the roof have been made into undulated forms so that the high speed velocity as well as the high frequency sounds that are traveling across the train station are cut down in their length. And as you can see, the entire structure has the undulating nature applied to its faces as well as the roof. So to create this, let's begin by understanding how the curves sit on the surface. The first few curves that I'll be working with are the curves on top. Then we also have the curves at the bottom. Now as the structure is repeating upon itself multiple number of times, I will also be creating it in just a small portion. If I take up just these two sets over here, you can very clearly see that these two are actually the ones that bind the surface between it. That is actually the repeating portion. So to create this, I'll have to create only the curves that sit along these two lines. And these two lines would form a sinusoidal wave. So let's begin by drawing that inside Rhinoceros. I'm taking a simple interpolate curve and I will draw that in my front viewport. I'm snapping to my grid points with my grid snap on. The grids help me in better understanding the positions wherein I'll have to place my points. Once this is done, I will also delete a few of the unnecessary control points. So now we're ready with the first curve on top. I will also take the control points on the apex points and move them in the two directions, the front and the back. So the top one over here, I will move it by -15. The bottom one, I will move it by +15. Inversely, you can also select your geometry and also rotate it. Once this is done, I will also move this slightly higher up. Let's also create a copy of it by mirroring. I'm mirroring to get the curve underneath. But after mirroring, I will also have to make sure that the curve over here will be in such a way that the apex point on the top and the apex point on the bottom are firstly alternating, and after alternating they should also be facing two different directions, as in the one at the bottom is facing the back, the one at the top is facing the front. Now to create the surface in between these two, I'm just going to loft the two curves together, curve 1 and 2, and you can see that the curves that you have on screen give you a surface that is not entirely what we would want. So for this, I will also have to select the curve at the bottom. This time I will mirror it in my front viewport, but I will make my copy as no. Once this is done, I can loft the two things together. And then you can see that the surface is according to the one that we want. I will also say, okay, this has been done. Next, I'll also need a copy of the facade on the opposite side. For that, I will mirror the surface onto the other side. While mirroring, make sure your copy is on yes to to get a copy out of it. And the mirror that I've just gotten will also have to be mirrored another time in the front viewport. This time I'll make the copy as no. And you can see that the apex points again are alternating. Now to create the roof. For creating the roof, a simple lofting would work for this as well. I'm lofting the two surface edges together. And you can see the surface for the roof has also been created. Once this is done, I will select all of my surfaces and join them together to create one poly surface. Now to create the individual fins that you have seen on the structure. Each of these individual fins can be mapped along a singular line. These lines, I will place them in the front viewport and make sure that these lines get projected onto the joint poly surface right now. So first let's create the straight lines. Holding down Shift to get a straight line. Selecting the line, I will make an array linear. Number of items that we would require might be 15. The first reference point and the second reference point. You can see one is offset. I will be deleting that. And you can see that it's positioned in front of the entire structure. Now the only thing left for us to do is to project these lines onto the surface. But while projecting, make sure to always select your surface in the front viewport, which is the viewport in which it makes sense right now. Once I project, you can see that the lines get projected onto the surface themselves. Let's hide the previous structures. Now coming to the lines that we have generated here. Each of the fins can be created by using a simple ribbon command. Ribboning helps in offsetting the line as well as creating the surface in between that. The drawback to using a ribbon is I won't be able to create the ribbon for all of these curves all at once. So I'll have to create 15 ribbons for 15 of the lines that we projected onto the surface. Right, now that we are done with the projections, I will select all the surfaces. To select all surfaces only and not your curves, get your selection filter on. In the selection filter, I will now turn off my curves. Control A to select all your surfaces at once, and I can offset the surface to give it some thickness. Offset surface. The distance for offsetting is kept as 0.15. Let's also check it on screen. Distance of 0.25 should be sufficient. I will also make sure that solid is on yes and delete input also is on yes. Say enter. And you can now see that the surface has some thickness that is generated to it. Each of these fins now have some thickness that is oriented to themselves. The next step is to just select the entire set, deselect the first one. Now making another array linear. As you can see in the images, there are quite a number of them. So I'll keep this on an arbitrary number of 15. Selecting the first reference point and then the second reference point. And you can now see the entire station has been modeled out. Hope you guys like this video. If you enjoy any of our content, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll be out with more exciting content like this. Thank you.